It is. I'm telling you, it's beautiful.
That's
But so we're live, right? And we were talking about Sparkle's background and the light at the end of the tunnel. I disagree that the light's at the front of the tunnel based on how this picture is going here.
Uh-huh.
Because Sparkle is the light, hence the name. I mean, your parents nailed it. It's amazing, right? And I've had the honor of meeting most of your family actually, and they're all amazing people, and it's awesome, right? It's a beautiful. It's just beautiful. It really is.
Man, yesterday was wild. I told you before the Amp Sports show with Philip on it. Oh God, he had me in tears. And they said, "Who's your biggest role model?" And I'm like thinking he's gonna say dad, you know,
Hmm.
like, "Oh, you're looking at her, my sister." And I was like, "Oh." Felt like I got gut punched, Mike.
You didn't see that one coming, huh? It's we never see. This is the funny part. I don't think we really realize the impact that we have on others, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
I mean, I don't think, and that comes. It's not only coming from the place that we came from, right? Which was almost fear and loathing in Las Vegas, where how much can we input into our body to numb ourselves, right? Because
Right.
we both lived that life for a while.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I don't think it stems from that. I think it stems from humility slash really not understanding how bright we are, right? And
Right.
to the people that we impact. So I'm going to let you introduce you to the world, right? Because nobody can introduce you better than you can.
That's
Not even going to waste my time trying. And again, I don't take notes, so
yeah.
we're good.
Very
We're
bad.
good. I don't have those, right? So we're good. So go ahead, Sparkle, run with it. I want you to introduce yourself to the world, and then we'll go into aligning team stuff. Jason will be joining us at some point, and we'll go from there.
Cool. Well, my name is Sparkle Lindsay. I am a keynote motivational speaker. I am an author. I am a nationally certified recovery coach. Hey, Jay.
What up?
I was just introducing myself and you
I
should
heard it. I just
have
heard it,
been
and I was sitting back
small.
and listening.
Yeah, I was telling Michael about our conversation. I'm 34 months sober today, too, by the way. I'm 2 years and
Congrats.
10 months sober. Sorry, I have to
Boom.
throw that out there to the world. But anyways, I'll go back real quick, Jay. My name is Sparkle Lindsay, and I am a keynote motivational speaker and author and a nationally certified recovery coach for people in addiction. And I'm also a recovery coach facilitator of those that want to walk alongside others that are fighting through any type of addiction. But before I decided to take on this road, this journey, and get to the light at the end of my tunnel, I was a HR advocate for 14 years for three big box companies, where I learned that I had to work with my people and through my people in order to be successful. And so aligning teams was perfect for me because I actually get a chance to go back into the lens of where I was in corporate America and actually see how I would do it now versus how I was when I was there. And using the coping skills and coping mechanisms I've been working so hard on for 2 years and 10 months of my sobriety, 34 months, right? To now find myself again in the world of corporate by helping others find themselves. So that's what I'm here for. And that's what I love about the aligning teams. Mike, when you said that you were going to be doing this, I was like, oh, there's so many things that I would help the HR world with. Running teams of 200 and 300 people was a blessing, but I learned so much from that experience, and now adding the other piece of that well-oiled machine that I'm becoming is great because I can put them together and help others figure out where they fit in their puzzle while being in corporate America with work-life balance. So that is why I'm here today. And I enjoy Mike and Jason, obviously. They're kind of cool. I mean, I'm the coolest. So I'm
Well, you did introduce me to Michael, so that makes it
That's
even
right. That's right. Yeah, that's how that all started, right? Like that's how it all starts somewhere, right?
right.
Um, it's interesting, right? The one thing that you didn't speak about is how wise you are, and I think
cooler.
this is a soapbox of mine. And I'm going to stand on it for a moment until Jason cuts me off because that's what I begged him to
Yeah.
do, right? I begged him to do it. So I'm going to stand on it for a minute. We don't give ourselves enough credit for being wise. We're always looking externally for wisdom.
Mhm.
But I really have an issue with that because the truth of the matter is we are all wise.
Sure.
We all have our own wisdoms that we've acquired through applying knowledge to our experiences, right? Because wisdom to me is applying knowledge to an experience makes you wise in something.
Mm-hmm.
Sparkle, you have survived so much. You have thrived so much. You have come so far. And it's your inner wisdoms that have gotten you there. And this is from accumulation of applying knowledge to your experiences. So, what I encourage people to do when they watch it, if they watch it, if they care, is to identify things that they're wise about. Like, really look at your own life.
Mm-hmm.
Look at identify situations, circumstances, anything around you that you have gone through, that you applied any knowledge that you've acquired to some experience, and that is a wisdom of yours.
Mm.
And start giving yourself credit for the wisdoms that you do have, because we all have them, and stop looking always externally and up to others for wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
because we all have our own. And I don't think we give ourselves enough credit to it. And see, I cut this off before Jason even had to cut me off. So this is pretty impressive.
That was good,
Right? Like
man. That was good.
this is good. But in a lot of aligning teams, right? And then I'm going to let Jason introduce himself. I'll go on another soapbox. Is about working with each individual, right, to feel valued, heard, and seen. So how do we do that, right? How do we appreciate each individual that is part of our team,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I am a personal believer that it starts with senior management. It starts with management, goes to leadership, goes to executive suite, but it's got to start in the middle, because it's got to be the middle that really applies this. Because you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to have a C level normally of a larger organization know every one of their employees and what they value, right? So it's going to come to that person's manager, that person's senior manager, that person's whatever it is, who they report to, who they work with, who they're inspired by, however you want to look at this in a corporate hierarchical type structure, to really know the people on their team, right? Because being a leader is inspiring others to be leaders, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the only way you can do that is if you know what each person's values and purpose for working in that role is, and where they want to go from there and grow into. So, when we're looking at aligning teams and we're looking at what we're doing, yes, it takes executive buy-in, right? But I also see that the most important roles are those managers, directors, VPs, the people that actually touch the larger numbers of employees on a daily basis, because those are the ones that can impact value and understand value.
Mm-hmm.
So Jason, why don't you introduce yourself now that I did two soapboxes?
Yeah, I'm Jason Tracy. I'm founder of Roar Consulting and co-founder of Aligning Teams, and it's super awesome because I get to be on the side of working on getting the event out there and the messaging and being on the inside, and then I get to coach Sparkle because we've been together for now over a year, and then she my talking points for the event. And so it's super awesome being on both sides and just seeing and knowing Sparkle as well as I do, knowing what the 3 R's are, the 3 R's within aligning teams, and the 3 R events. And the 3 R's are rejuvenate, reinvent, and retain. And I look at how, Sparkle, you've had to rejuvenate yourself, you've had to reinvent yourself to not be that people pleaser, right? To not be, there are so many things that that you were taking on in that competitiveness and the desire to be needed, that you were just working away and losing yourself within that. Like you were talking about, you did 16 things at one time, and felt like that was normal. But then what is that causing? What kind of disruption is that having in your life?
Right. I think, going back to what Michael said as well, and then Jason, obviously, we've been around for a long time, but one of the biggest pieces is I came from a innovative company when I was 24 years old. I came from a very innovative company that taught me that people own their own development. Okay. And that is the reason why I ended up learning that it helps for people to own their own recovery. So using the stepping stones that I had learned in corporate America to now bring it into my own business was helpful. But taking teams, of 300, 400 from 888 in the company to number 2 in the company says a lot about the value of the employees that I had working for me. And they were amazing people because I valued every piece of them, working with them and through them to find that. Now, what I didn't have and I hadn't done yet is work with me and through me. That is the heart of where
Yes.
corporate has to go right now. And as a leader, I was so busy taking care of everybody else but me that there was a piece that was missing, but I didn't know it. And now that I've had a chance to, I had to step away from it, you guys. It almost killed me,
Yep.
right? It almost killed me. But I had to step away from it to realize I didn't even know who I was. And now, almost 3 years later, I'm like, I know who the hell I am. And I also know that if I had a team of people that were under me or next to me, I'm going to help them find out who they are as well. That right there is a leader, it's a coach, it's a driver, but it's a driver in a healthy way because
Mhm.
I know I can't take it all in and do it on my own, and I can't force people to do what they don't want to do. So, as an HR executive, before leaning on people's strengths and allowing people to be themselves within their strengths and owning their development helps everybody move up. When we start telling everybody what they need to do and how they need to do it, and we're not listening, that's when all of a sudden you have an employee that says, I'm going on my break and I'm never coming back.
Coming back. Yes. Yeah.
It's happened to me. I'm like, where did he? Yeah, he's gone. He left his books and everything. He's not coming back. I'm like, dang, what did we do? Right. So, looking at that, evaluating how we are as a company, as an organization, looking at ourselves from the inside out as executives, as leaders, are we actually taking care of ourselves enough to understand what it even feels like to be valued? Because if we're not, how are we going to trickle it down to the people who are wanting to move up?
I think you bring up such a huge, huge point. And the visual I get is when you're on the airplane and they tell you if there's a problem with the plane's going down, the masks are going to drop. Make sure you put your mask on first, because
Yeah,
if you're listening and you're in corporate leadership or you're in these leadership roles, you may be like Sparkle, taking care of your people. Like, you want the best for your people. Your people love you. You're developing your people. That's great. But are you taking care of you? Do you know your core values, or are you that doormat? Are you when the bosses say you need to do this, you're piling all this stuff on your plate because you want to take care of the company and you want to take care of your people? But who are you? And again, you can get so lost in that. And how do you continue empowering people below you when you're a mess?
exactly.
So there's two things I want to discuss. There obviously it's no surprise that Sparkle left corporate about 3 years ago and she's been sober 34 months. It's very simple math,
Yeah.
right? It's not a surprise that I've been sober 15 and a half years and I left the financial market about a month before that, right?
Yeah.
So there's no surprises here, right? When you're doing something that doesn't align and you know you're not taking care of yourself, that's when these vices, these escapisms, and then you can go into all these other reasons that these are predictive behaviors and predestined, behaviors that are just acquired right over time.
Right.
I'm not saying that I wasn't an addict before I went into the stock market, because I was.
Right.
It just highly amplified, and
Worst.
it
Yeah.
became much more financially viable once I was in the stock market,
Mhm.
right? So the other thing I wanted to say is that you've seen the best and the worst of situations at your job.
Oh yeah.
I know you don't want to talk about this, but we're bringing this story out because I think the world needs to hear it, right?
Good. I was
Because
hoping the story was going to come out because
it's
it's so
oh, it was
impactful.
going to. I was
Yeah.
going to force it,
Yeah.
but yeah, like because the world needs to understand, right? When we push people to limits,
Mhm.
and they're used to saying yes because they're in fear of losing jobs and they're in fear of losing financial security, we help them snap.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
we push them to limits, right? Like, I'll never forget. Real quick story on my side. My third child, Sid, was being born. You know, the crazy little one that bounces around all the time. Thank God in preschool, right? She's hanging from ceilings, doing whatever she wants. Fine, but that's their problem for 7 hours a day, not mine, or 8 hours. Thank God. But during her birth, I was working for a guy who literally called me 3 times while the C-section was going on. And
Yeah.
I finally answered the phone and I said, I told you that my wife at the time was going into surgery and I'm not able to talk. And he started screaming, you better answer the phone. You better talk to me. If I need you, you answer. I hung up on him because the doctor was literally trying to hand me my new daughter. And for some reason in Arkansas, I don't know why. One, I'm in the C-section room, which was really weird and strange. Two, like the operating room with the C-section. And two, I was allowed to bring my cell phone in. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on with these
Right.
with these rural medical systems, but I can tell you from being out there for another 19 months at some point later that it was quite the experience to deal with those systems. And the fact that I even had my cell phone on me showed you how in fear of my financial stability I was. Because who brings their cell phone into an operating room other than the doctors? Which actually the anesthesiologist did answer his phone, which was really strange. Something about a golf thing that he was doing, but but like I mean that's how insensitive it is, and
Mhm.
that is how much fear we have, right? That we're gonna lose something.
Yeah.
And that was the last day I ever worked for that gentleman, and that was the last day I committed to bringing phones into places like that, right? Like that was me saying, okay, this needs to be obviously a boundary, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
this is insane. Like the guy knows. I texted him and said, we're going into the operating room,
Yeah.
and he still called 3 times in a half an hour. It was absolutely nuts, and it
Yeah.
was over the dumbest thing possible because it meant nothing at
Right.
that time. He just wanted his ego boost, and that was it. So, Sparkle, I want you to share your story because it is a very dramatic story. There is a trigger warning here, so if you get triggered by things, just listen
Yeah.
anyway. But then call us after so we can be there for you.
Yes.
But this is a very real story, and this is dramatic, yes, but it does happen.
Oh yeah.
And go
I mean,
ahead, Sparkle.
I think the love that I had for my employees was, I mean, it was just unconditional. Um, I hated to see people hurt, you know, and as an HR person, I wanted to make sure that people were taken care of, you know, and I worked around the clock. I worked around the clock. You know, we had visits. I'd come in at 3 o'clock in the morning to make sure those visits were okay. You know, I dealt with the people. I did a lot of the training, you know, all of those things, took tours, you know, really helped them feel like they were okay. And I also had to be aware of attendance or when people weren't showing up. And, you know, I had a client that actually you could tell that things were not going well. Now, in the midst of this, I was also in my own addiction. And at this point, I knew I had an issue. They call it the pre-contemplative stage. Sorry, I just breaking that down for you.
No, you're good. I spent 12 years there, so we're good.
So,
I definitely
all
was
right.
learning that one the slow way.
But so I knew I had a problem, but like I didn't know that it was like a problem. I thought I was just partying, having a good time. But I remember one specific day, which it changed my life forever. And it has every year that this happens. It was November 11th, Veterans Day. And I remember a client coming in that didn't have anywhere to live. Like we were trying to find him living, and I was doing all this work to try to figure out how to get him living. Okay. Mind you, this is what I do now as a recovery coach, but it's so much easier to find living now because I can do it on my own. I'm not going through a million different
Well,
hoops.
and you're sober, so
Yeah.
you remember to do certain things, right? So
Yes. So I was able to get all the information because for me, I mean, although I drank and although I had cocaine was my addiction, I had many accolades and many goals that I had overcome for the company. So I knew that I was able to get him living. And I got an email right before he showed up that said we had granted him housing. So he's been gone for 3 or 4 days. I'm extra excited that he's come. I mean, he comes in. When I go to talk to him, he kind of shrugs me off. And I say, hey, I got some good news for you. And he shrugs me off and he says, I got to go to the bathroom. So in the pit of my soul, I feel something that doesn't feel good. Now, at this point in time, being an intuitive as well now and empathic and using that as a superpower for myself now, but not knowing then and being hungover, by the way, I didn't. I thought about it, but I said, okay, I'm just going to go back to the office. I'm going to show him the letter so I can make his day, because I'm thinking he's just not having a good day today, right? So as I get going, I get closer and closer to the bathroom. And as I'm getting there, I'm just starting to feel sick, kind of sick to my stomach. And I just now remember, as I'm talking to you guys, just how sick I felt. Like I'm actually feeling the sickness right now, which is interesting. So as I'm walking towards the bathroom and everything else, I just feel kind of lightheaded. And I'm like, I don't feel like I should be waiting too much longer, So I remember just said, forget it. I opened the door and he shoots himself in the head. And I faint. I remember fainting and I remember getting up and I just remember saying, whew, I don't know what happened. It's like I had lost sight of everything. Now, mind you, a lot of this for me was like, I'm okay. I can handle it. We didn't talk about therapy. I talked to some other peers that had dealt with other things that had happened, in the stores and they were like, we just deal with it. We handle it. But the nightmares started happening for me. And I was just like, I was trying to stay up so I wouldn't sleep. And I was drinking, but then going to work around the clock in this cycle, but having like nightmares and having to pull over in the cars. And I mean, it was awful, and when I went to say something about it, you know what I mean? I knew then I was going to have to save my life because of all the accolades I had already had. Nobody recognized how bad it was eating me up inside. And because I was still fulfilling all of these different things, nobody even took the time to even really care because they knew the results were happening. And they knew that I was still valuing people before myself. But inside, I knew I was going to die. I knew it, and I knew things were just not okay, and until this day, I would say last year, I actually was able to learn the gift of permanence and actually say that his death had a huge impact on me. It changed my freaking life forever. And I say that because even now, even now, I'm able to be open and honest about that and how much I needed them to understand that. And instead, it was Sparkle's strong enough. She can do it. Sparkle she'll fix it. I was still the fixer, even after all the trauma that had hit me. And I didn't even realize what trauma truly was.
Yeah.
So when I got a chance to actually work through that after turning down a $125,000 promotion to take my life back, I now can say that 3 years later, almost, that it was one of the greatest blessings I could have ever had because now I can look at it through a different lens with clarity and understanding and realize that I had been allowing it so much that the people around me were used to it. And so I say that to a lot of our leaders, a lot of our healers, it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to say, how am I going to help this team of people if I can't even help my damn self? And those are the things I found out. And in that's why I wrote the book, Being a Better Me for Me. That's why I wrote the workbook, to be able to set boundaries. That's why I said, in order for me to if I ever wanted to go back to corporate America, I would have to be equipped to go back there. It's not them, it's on me to make sure I take care of me in those walls. So how am I going to do that and then help it trickle down? And those are the things that I seen. And then, of course, Michael talks about aligning teams. And it brought me completely back to an area that I haven't quite explored entirely yet in my sobriety. But I do know that being able to separate myself for a little bit and understand myself for who I am would make me a force to be reckoned with in corporate America, because I know me. So I say that to leaders: if you don't know you, you better ask somebody. You got to figure that out so you can give the right type of leadership for yourself and for others. Everybody should be moving forward together, not you holding everybody up and you're not moving anywhere.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly where I was, you know?
So first things first, hi Felicia.
What up, Felicia?
Second, there's something major that needs to be addressed there, right? And that is this mentality that everyone's a number in a cog in a wheel, right? And that there is no organizations as a whole, right? Not just in generalizing, mostly don't value their people, right? Because it's all about that bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
And Sparkle was performing, right? As I was too in my addiction, and tremendously performing and outperforming most. I found a great balance for myself. Great chemist. So it was, but the reality was I was dead inside. I was miserable. I hated life. I hated everything about me. And nobody noticed. Nobody cared. As long as I performed, nobody cared.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, I think that's one of the reasons this matters so much to me, right? Not everybody's as fortunate as me. Not everybody's as lucky as I am, or whatever you want to call it, that I've had 13 to 14 to 15 near-death experiences, right? Most people don't survive one. So, you know, not everyone is, I'm blessed. I truly am, and I know it, and I appreciate it. But the only way I know how to use that for the betterment of mankind is to, in the betterment of humanity, is to invest that gift of more opportunities into helping others never feel the way that I felt, right? And if you are in an organization, I don't care what title you are, bottom, top, whatever it is, and you go to your leader, manager, whatever you want to call that person, I guess if the egocentric, it's I'm your boss, right? But whatever that person is, and you tell them that you need something for your own well-being, and they just brush it off,
Mm-hmm.
then really perpetuate the great resignation and go find something else.
Yeah.
Because
let me ask you, Michael,
hurting yourself doesn't help.
What do you think? Because you both of you were both extremely high performers, even though you were battling your demons. You know,
Always.
What do you think would have happened if a leader would have came to you, Michael, and seen you, felt you, heard you, and just genuinely was like, "What's going on?"
So here's the funny part. The leaders always enabled me. Always. I lost my driver's license to a DUI, so they found me a ride to and from work. Right? They also paid for happy hour because they knew I had court bills. They, you know, Christmas parties, they would get me a hotel room so I didn't have to go home. I didn't have to leave premises. Like, in a way, I think they thought they were doing the best they could to help me.
Yeah.
Because they just didn't know how to deal with me. You know, like, I mean, I was managing people. I was managing $20 million accounts. I was working, you know, with off books funds, right? At some point, you know, before the Bernie Madoff and all that crap happened and it became illegal, you know, but I was doing some huge things with huge numbers and it didn't matter. It didn't matter. They encouraged me to be drunk. They encouraged me to be high because I found a chemical balance that worked for me. And it made me more productive. If I was too drunk or too high, it wouldn't work as well. You know, one of my bosses, he actually said, come in for the first hour and a half of the day and then go home and sleep it off every day, 5 days a week. And that was the most money I've ever made, really the most percentage-wise money I've ever made in my life. I outperformed everyone because all he did was let me go trade through my hangover. And that was enough to, you know, me stay somewhat balanced in that in-between level long enough to get things done. I mean, I slept in the office many nights and then I would stay for that opening and then leave. Like, I mean, there was no one that said, hey, Mike, you need help. That didn't exist.
It's so interesting because I think you two both have, it's similar but very different. what was going on with you, Sparkle, right? You were just showing up and you were able to perform and people didn't know necessarily what was going on in your life.
Oh yeah, it was just like, I mean, they already knew like the numbers are happening. And I mean, even when I turned down the promotion, they literally were like, "We'll hold your position. We want the results. You go get some help. We'll hold the position." They're like, "We don't really know why she's getting help, but whatever." I mean, the difference is that when we're enabling, another thing is this. I mean, I had a come to Jesus, I think it was with you last year, yesterday, when I left a company. By the way. And
Yesterday. Oh my God. Wow. Congratulations. A year. That's an anniversary to celebrate as well. That's
yeah,
awesome.
to start Sparkle. But remember, I made the comment to you, my entire life, I've been enabling freaking companies.
Yeah.
I've been enabling organizations by being their end all be all and their everything. And then they're just like, "No, we'll do whatever we can to keep you," like a codependent relationship
Oh,
with the
$1,000,000%.
organization.
But I think part of that also was we didn't value ourselves, right? And
Right.
we didn't have boundaries. We didn't understand it. We didn't, because of how we chose to live. And I don't put that on anyone else in my life. It's how
Mhm.
I chose to
Yeah,
live.
we allowed it.
And I really enjoyed it,
Mm.
in a lot of ways. But it's because of choosing that way of life. Um, yeah, I mean, we were the end all be all. We were the doormats. We were you know, we were always people pleasing because all we wanted to do was feel loved because we didn't love ourselves.
Exactly.
You want to get to the core. I mean, that's the core. And no matter who was around us in our lives that wanted to love us, we didn't know how to allow that to happen because we did not love ourselves.
Well, we had never seen it. There's a difference between not loving yourself and then also knowing how to love yourself. And that is the reason why I did come up, with being a better me for me. That's the reason why I came up with it, so I could learn coping skills to self reflect and deal with me on a regular basis every day, just to center myself and ground myself to know so. But at that point, there was no center myself and ground myself. It was, we got to do this. We got to win. This is my drive. I am an athlete, okay, who has taught myself to walk. I will win. And they jumped on that. And do you blame them? Of
No.
course not. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But did I realize that was happening? Absolutely not. And a lot of that happens to a lot of us as leaders. And that's the reason why you see, people getting us as young adults, giving us lots of money and then driving us into the ground because we don't have boundaries. We haven't gotten out of school and realized the word no.
Hmm.
We haven't. Okay. It's no, period, a complete sentence. But if you were to ask anybody that has ever been in corporate America, you may have got by them a lot at a younger age to the point where no was not in your vocabulary, which is where we come up with the yes man version and the doormat version, which makes it where you are nothing but a person's doormat. You are doing everything to fulfill what the company needs, not having a clue what you need at all, don't know what needs and wants even mean. All these simple, basic things that we just never practice. And we only practice what the companies want us to because we don't know. But now we do. And it's a time for that. It's a time in this pandemic time, during this time when everybody's trying to find themselves, find yourself so that when you go to these companies, you're able to set your boundaries and you're also able to continue to move up for yourself because no one can move up better than you can because you know what you need, right? If you're working on yourself. So, I mean, all of it realigns together. And if I could go back to the way I was before, I wouldn't. The wisdom I have now is for now. And the wisdom that I encourage people to have is go in on yourself, be curious about yourself, then go get that job in corporate America and tell them who you are, trust in yourself while you do it, and trust in the people that are around you to do what they need to do to help them as well. If we do that, companies will, you won't have people pleasers. because everybody will be pleasing themselves. And in that, everything around you will evolve as it may. But we don't have that in the company. We have hierarchies that want to control that. And then we want to be controlled because that's all we know. Right? So I seen that in my life then. And I see myself, I can envision myself if I were just sitting in the same spot I was right now in this moment today, a building would run so differently.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yes.
would run
Yeah.
different. It would run even, it was already a powerhouse while I was there. But now I'm also growing at the same time. Whew, you've got a company that's a force to be reckoned with
Yeah.
because you're a force to be reckoned with. That's the difference. Once your team sees that, nothing stops growth. But when you stop, that's when people question. You question, right? So trusting in yourself to move forward and other people seeing it creates that army. The sober warriors that I'm wanting to create now and they're creating themselves is the same exact thing you get in a building when you work with your people, through your people, and you start with you first.
Yes. Yeah. We talk about rejuvenate, reinvent, and
Yep.
retain the humans within your business, starting with yourself. And it has to start from that leadership level, because if we're just hitting the employees, and just employees are coming through, and I don't want to say just employees, but employees are coming through at a lower level, they're going to get frustrated because they're identifying with themselves, they're finding their needs, and they're telling their boss, and their boss is like, I don't care. Like, go
Right.
at it. Sparkle, you're the work. We need you to work. Like, don't care
Yeah.
about yourself. Like, we don't, do these things. However, when it comes from that top and you create a whole culture within the company,
Mm-hmm.
how powerful is that? Because we think that the way we're driving now is healthy. I'm just thinking about what kind of company could we have with a healthy Michael and a healthy Sparkle, that are the drivers that you are and the forces that you are to be reckoned with, sober and happy and
Yes.
healthy and clear-minded, and what kind of impact can you leave? And it's more than just work at that point, because it also ties into your values and you're excited to do it. um, Hearing how you're working with people, Sparkle, and I've talked to you about this several times, and I'm so excited about you coming to this event and speaking to the corporate branch, is because I've said this ties so hand in hand with corporate. Like, and you're so passionate about it because you've lived that experience. It's that lived experience that you've had, like we talked about at the beginning. But this framework that you build is going to be so impactful for the people that attend, to be able to really tie in and find out who they are and create those supports and create that system so they can go back.
Well, and creating that as a leader, that's what fuels us. That is what fuels us. Like for me, even as a recovery coach, as a facilitator, when you start to feel your people get it, it's surreal, but you got to feel it. And
Yes.
so if you can take yourself into a corporate America world and feel your entire team feel just like they are a force to be reckoned with, you guys, it's a magical feeling that people don't even allow themselves to have. They're so busy trying to control everybody and where they go, but don't do that. Allow people to be within their skin and enjoy themselves, and your place will rock. It will rock, and you won't even have to do anything.
No.
You just sit there, you work with them, you walk with them, you walk alongside them, you show them what they're doing, you give them the kudos, you let them brag a bit, right? Soon as we do that, oh, it's the sky's the limit to where your organization will go. Allow people to be themselves in your company. Allow them to help themselves. Don't go trying to help everybody.
Yeah.
Help
Yeah.
themselves. And it sounds easy, but it's not. It's a practice because you got to practice with yourself first to even implement it. And it's going to be a different art of implementation for every organization because you're a
Yeah.
different human being. But whoever it is, if they see you're working, they're going to want to work too.
You're so right. Is we're all different human beings. We all learn different. We all put structures in place differently. We all change differently. The thing that is common with every single human, no matter what kind your personality type is, no matter what you have going on, is that we all want to feel seen, felt, and heard.
Exactly.
We all have that core like need. So to be able to come into work and feel seen, felt, and heard, feel like
Yes.
your opinion matters, feel like you are a contributor to what's going on to the bigger picture of the organization. It changes the outlook in the momentum and the productivity of the whole entire organization by 20,000. Like you think about each individual life that you're touching and how much positive energy is coming out of that. You're creating a culture in a momentum in an organization that cannot be stopped.
Right. It's powerful, but being mindful and aware of the things that your employees do, calling them out, telling them how great they are, not just how great they are, but remembering, like, man, we're having our huddle today in the intimates department. Have you guys seen what they have done? Okay. These things
Yeah.
help people say, yeah, I did that. We was working. Now you're creating memories. You're creating the positive affirmations that we all need to move forward. We need that in our life. It can't be, I don't know why that shelf is missing in the back part of who did that?
Yeah.
Ugh. Like that's, no. Let's look at what the positive is, and then let's coach ourselves and coach our people through, okay, the shelf is missing, but look at everything else that happened. Now that's
So
what I'm talking about. We're getting there. We're a work in progress. Progress over perfection. When we talk to our people this way, it's not just recovery that we talk about this. It's in life. You talk
yeah.
about your progress over perfection. And it's in a company. We talk about progress over perfection. We're freaking human. So allow us to do so. And I think that's what it is. And have fun with your employees. Talk with them. Do fun things. I remember
Fun.
doing,
Yeah, fun.
relay races at one point, in my huddles, just because I had a lot of younger kids that were like, we always meet at the huddle and we always numbers. And finally I said, no, we're going to do relay races. They were like, this is great.
Reinvent.
Yes.
Reinvent.
It's
Always keep it fresh.
great. Exactly.
And if you're a leader, you're going through the same mundane things over and over again. It's you go to work in the same, you're just in that box. It's the same thing over and over again. You've got to
Yes.
step out and reinvent yourself.
And that's being stagnant as a company. Remember, we got to innovate. We have to rejuvenate. And every 6 months, every 3 months, rejuvenate yourself, because you might need those supports that you're having. Maybe those supports that are what I call, the next book coming out, The Legs to Your Table. You need those supports as well. Okay. The supports that I use for recovery to help my recoveries get through is the same exact thing that you can use for your employees to get through. Do they have the legs to their table so that they can move forward in your company? So give people that opportunity to do so by opening up your walls to expand for them and expand for yourself. Don't stay stagnant. You'll lose them.
So there's a few things that come from that happen naturally when this starts happening in an organization, right? People start becoming self-inspired, self-empowered, and innovative, right? And this just becomes natural once they feel valued, when they
Yes.
feel safe to try new things, when they feel safe to be themselves, right? To bring all of themselves to the table. The other part is people become accountable to themselves
Exactly.
because they're part of a living, breathing organization. They know it, right? So you don't need yes people in your organization anymore, because everybody's policing themselves, babysitting themselves, paying attention to their own actions, so that they're a part of this living, breathing organization, right? And then the energy becomes so infectious and contagious. Whether you're selling pencils, whether like Bic, I mean, look at Bic in their commercials. 100 and something years later, all they sell is pencils, but they crush it, right? Like, I mean, like
They've got
but it's
lighters
true.
too, right?
They do have lighters. Yeah, that's right.
Lighters and pencils, kind of a weird combo.
First thing I go for in a crashing plane is cigarettes and a lighter, so I should know that. But like, why not, right? Like, what's the difference?
Right.
It's
not the oxygen mask. It's
not the oxygen mask. Give me as much nicotine as possible. But it's like, the more I think about this, the more it inspires and it invigorates and it lights me up, because there's an empowered workforce shifts everything.
So
when
powerful.
there's no more fear. Because the minute you have a boss or a manager, or no matter how high up, low up, no matter where you are in an organization, but the minute that this leader, right, perspective, let's just call it leader, walks in with fear,
Oh,
immediately knocks the dominoes down for everyone
mhm,
else in line. Like, everyone's scared from that point forward.
right.
So how do you shift that paradigm? How do you really bring it? And it's by having deep, honest conversations,
Yes.
bringing in and treating each individual like an individual. If Bobby likes sports, rather than giving him a raise, send him to a football game 4 times a year, right?
Yeah,
Or
Right.
whatever the season is.
yeah,
Like, but know what makes these people tick.
yeah,
Understand them. Jason coaches his son's team, offered to sponsor his team, right? Like, find ways to motivate people that they're going to say, you know what, I don't want to leave here.
yeah.
I
Well, and
never want to
It's
leave.
so much more than money.
right.
Always.
And on top of that, let's talk about like if you went in and somebody, you have an evaluation. I remember having an evaluation in front of me and I was like, okay, don't I'm going to ask these questions, fine, but we're going to have some real conversation. We're going to have to do some motivational interviewing here. We're going to have to be able to communicate and get these open-ended questions because these questions right here are so stale. They don't tell me anything about what my employee really freaking needs.
Yeah,
I need to know because I'm going to be working with this person, possibly if they choose to stay with me for the rest of their life. And what I don't want to do is have a piece of paper tell me about them. No, let's get real with it because in those four walls or wherever you're working, you guys become a family. You become a team, right? So
you're
as
around them just as much, if not more, than your family.
right, you around
Yeah,
people, you argue like your brothers and sisters, whatever. But the difference is you got to get to know somebody on a personal level. When they need to hold space, allow your employee to hold space, especially if you know how they work. So the difference is go out of your way to figure out who you're working with and what actually makes people happy. What actually makes them feel whole instead of just saying, well, your paperwork says this is what you do, so we'll just
yeah.
go with it. And then they're like, but I'm really sick of doing that. And you don't even know it.
So I have a story, but first off, I acknowledge Jenny Sparkle is an absolute rock star. In what's up? Good morning to you
Danny.
too. Julie, what is up? You
Hey,
rock so
Julie.
hard. William, all we're drinking is coffee around here. Cheers to
Yeah,
you. You got the coffee. So
that's it.
So, as an executive leader in the business that I was in, we were buying new locations, and our company was buying these 2 locations from another entrepreneur. And this guy was telling me about his people because we were buying his people too. We got his locations and his people, and he was giving me a rundown between we were driving from one location to another. He's giving me a rundown for all the people I was going to meet in this next location, and he was telling me about this girl Hannah. He was like, Hannah, she is the worst. You'll probably fire her within the next couple of months. She's got an attitude. She's like she won't do anything for free. I ask her to take the deposit to the bank and she'll say how much you're going to pay me for it. She's just got the worst attitude. I don't like her, blah, blah, blah. And then he told me about this other guy that he thought was going to be my next manager because he'll jump how high whenever I say how high, like blah, blah, blah. First off, I don't listen to other leaders in quotation marks, perceptions of people, because there's a reason why his business was failing and why we're buying them. If his locations were phenomenal, he was not. And we could see that, right? And so he can give me his feedback all he wants, but I'm not listening. Now, I came in and I sat down with every single one of the employees so I could get to know them. Who are you? Tell me about your life. What are your goals? What do you want out of, not just give me some like, what do you want of the next 5 years and hoping to hear that they want to, blah, blah, blah. As I got to know Hannah, I'm like, oh my God, Hannah is my person. She grew up with a dad that abandoned her. Her mom was a piece of shit. And she was telling me about her mom was just a POS. And I got the chance to meet her mom, and her mom was confirmed a POS. And she's telling me, she's like, last year, even though I'm working for this boss that like didn't see me, even though like I don't like working for this company, I made more money last year than any previous year my mom's had in her whole entire career. And I'm so proud of that. I'm going to be more successful than my mom. I could just see that drive. She had the lion inside. And I'm like, Hannah is my person. Hannah became my top salesperson in the whole entire organization. She became one of my best leaders. She was the first leader in my organization to take over 2 locations and become a regional manager. And still to this day, I have a phenomenal relationship with Hannah. The other guy that he was like, he's phenomenal, he was just a yes man. Like he didn't belong in that organization. And I nice guy, but he belongs somewhere else. And now he works construction and he actually owns his own company. Awesome for him. He was in the wrong place. I told him, you're in the wrong place. This isn't for you. Right. Hannah, this is for you. You're my homie. Let's go. Yeah. And the performance that I got out of her, because she felt so grateful. Somebody finally came and saw her. And I'll tell you, her mom came in one day and she's like, my mom's here. And I knew all the backstory about her mom. And so I made it a point to go out there and meet her mom. And I said, hi, I'm Jason. I just wanted to come out and meet you. I've heard so much about you. And, I just want to tell you that you have a phenomenal daughter. And she was like, you're probably the only person that's ever seen that.
Wow.
She was like, I don't agree. And I'm like, oh, everything your daughter said about you is true. I'm like, you don't deserve to have a daughter like Hannah. Like, you don't deserve to have her. Like, she's phenomenal.
See you later.
But what I was able to get out of Hannah from a performance standpoint was huge. But it also, when I left that organization, like, I didn't feel bad because I left the organization. I was excited to start my business. I felt bad because of Hannah and Kelly and Josh and all these people that I was able to help them to see their full potential because I saw them and I took that time to understand who they were and what they wanted.
Mm-hmm. I think that's such an astonishing story. I think one of the craziest parts about it is just probably, God, I want to say just about a month and a half ago, I went back to the store that was number 2 in the company from 888. And us as an executive team, we were so tight knit. We were so close that we had helped create such a great team of people that when I went back there, there's still some of the same people there. They still do the same processes we had, and they love their jobs. And I still have some other managers that, I left that are still there in that company. In the background. And that company literally was like, I mean, they're doing great in that store, but the same exact processes that we came up with, and we had so much fun doing them. Those people are rocking and rolling, and it's because they love themselves, and the people that I worked with, they love themselves too. Now they've seen me leave, and a lot of them have said, "How'd you do it? How'd you get out of it?" Because we were hanging on, because all of us, we love to party, but then they asked me, how did you pull yourself out of this? And how did you actually become Sparkle again? So it was wild. So the store still does well. And we worked with our people and through our people, but the pieces of some of those, executives that are still there, they still never found themselves. They just kept following suit. And I said, I got to go. You know what I mean? I gotta fight for myself in this. So very interesting how the team did well, but once again, the leaders still there following that process, but still not really knowing themselves from the inside out,
What's interesting is I hear that I think that every company in the world understands the word culture. It's such a buzzword. Everybody strives to have a great culture. What most companies don't understand, that culture is more than that yearly meeting. Culture is more than the foosball table, to Michael's standpoint. Culture is, it's not the pizza lunch that you give them once a month. It's not that. It's coming in, and all the things we've been talking about is seeing your people and empowering your people. And how do you do that if you're not empowering yourself? 1, 2, it's time to stop talking about it and be about it. And this event, Aligning Teams, a 3-hour event, is just a phenomenal way to get outside of that box, to get outside of the bubble that's creating the problems within itself. You're not going to solve them inside that box. You got to come out and experience something so immersive like this. To come in and do a blindfolded dinner. Oh my God, you guys had me at hello and talking about that event. Like, could you imagine sitting and eating dinner and enjoying a meal with somebody in not knowing what they look like,
Yeah.
not knowing anything about them, just being able to have a conversation. And I heard Janine talking the other day in the live with Mandy and talking about when she's done this experience in the past, how people's senses are so awakened that because they're not thinking about what somebody's doing at the other table. They're not thinking about what somebody looks like. They're not thinking about and prejudging. They're just in that moment. And how transformative is that alone? How do you go back and see your people at the end? Can you bring that event back to your people? And let's say we're going to do a board meeting. We're going to do our annual meeting this year. We're going to do it blindfolded.
Yes.
And what kind of impact does that have on your organization? And just think about that for a moment.
It enacts and shifts real change, right? And it puts it into action, because it takes perspective away, and it refreshes and basically gives you a clean palette of perspective. Right. And then you start looking at things objectively at an objective truth rather than your perspective of truth.
Yeah.
There's three versions of truth: one side, other side, and objective. How do we get to objective? It's by removing our own personal perspective. And again, I'm participating in the blindfolded dinner because I'm excited. Like, I want to do this. Like, this is good. I can't wait. Sparkle's participating too. She doesn't have a choice. So, I mean, but I can't wait for this. Like, this is exciting to me because I really want to understand myself at a deeper level, right? I've removed almost every yes person out of my life. I don't want yes people in my life. I want people that are going to help me stay accountable to me.
Yeah.
Not for their benefit, but stay true to myself. Like, before we went live, the first thing I said to Jason is, I said, Jason, make sure you cut me off, because I know sometimes I go on tangents. Sometimes I run my mouth. Sometimes I go too far, and I want to stay more condensed and concise. And how do I train myself? By asking somebody to keep me going with that and helping and being honest with myself. Like, Jason, if I didn't ask him to, he might have felt bad doing it. Not saying he would, because I don't think he would, but he might, right? Like, but I asked.
It's funny because people are like, "You're so nice," but then when they get to know me, they know I'll cut you off. They're like,
No. I mean,
when I get passionate about something, I have a definite opinion.
Yes. But you know what it is? You're firm and you're true to yourself, right? So when you see somebody like tiptoeing around that, that's when firm Jason comes out, and it's like, no, you're lying to yourself. Just shut up, ready? Just stop talking.
Hey,
and that's okay, right?
I'll tell you now, someone who's been my coach for a year. I mean, I'm not an easy person to coach, at times. But for him, he's like, "So what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, wow, okay, 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 I guess I'm." How are you doing this, Sparkle? Which I respect that, like Michael said, and Michael will do it too. I don't know, Sparkle, why are you not trusting yourself right now? Why are you second guessing it? Oh, okay. Thanks, guys. Let me go think about it. I love that. That's the great part about this. And it's the great part about aligning teams and being able to do that, blindfolding ourselves, focusing on the senses, being in the moment. These are practices. I mean, this is going to be an amazing event because of that. You get to see exactly how you are in the moment to moment experience all the time throughout this entire time. And then take it back to your teams to stay present.
Yeah.
We don't really care about what's happening in the future, and the past is gone. But when we are able to actually slow ourselves down and focus on the present in any aspect, we're better for it. And so are the people who work for us. Yeah. And we work for ourselves as well, right? So
I think that's a good mic drop and a good ending point, because Sparkle just encapsulated everything for us, and old wise one came through. She found her way to the end of the tunnel, so she's good. I mean,
if she moves and the tunnel opens up in the background.
Yes. It's like, all we need is that sound in the background.
We're
there. All right, guys.
There you go.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for whoever watches it later. Jason, Sparkle, thank you so much. It was amazing. Absolutely. Love you guys. I might need a nap. I think my daughter kept me up all night, so it might be time for a nap. So I have energy to get through the weekend. And I will thank you, world. We will be back again on Sunday. I don't remember what day. Tuesday, Jason. Jason, you're on that one too with Julie.
Oh, okay,
And
Tuesday.
and
Julie,
Janine.
we're
I think it's
together.
me. I think it's me, you, Julie, and Janine, if I remember correctly.
Amazing.
Me,
Awesome.
me, and 3 J's. Hang on a sec. I don't know if I could do that. That sounds really. I feel like I'm out of place. That's a lot of J's.
With an
Yeah, that's
M.
next Tuesday. It's me and 3 J's. All right, we're
All
doing
right.
that. 2 p.m.
Okay.
Eastern.
Awesome.
All right, y'all.
Everybody have an amazing weekend.
All right, you too.